What's up, everybody? Kevin here, coming to you from my home studio bedroom. Uh, this is Friday, May the 1st. It's going to be May, right? So I had planned to give some feedback this morning, but I think I posted the link a little too late, and I didn't have anybody to submit mixed feedback. And I'm not sure that I would have time to kind of navigate that whole thing. So what I thought I would do today is to tell you 3 reasons why I think you should be getting mixed feedback. Good morning, Mark. Um, Mixed feedback is one of those things that people are a little afraid to do sometimes. I'm just going to leave my glasses off. Uh, People are afraid to do that because, I mean, let's admit it, it's scary. It's scary to put your mix out there and to um, just to let the world hear it. And if you're like me, you like criticism and you know that it improves you, but at the same time, you're sensitive to criticism, like I am. And I think that anybody who is a professional and or not, but who does something creative, it's hard to put your stuff out there. I understand. I totally do. But I'm gonna give you 3 reasons this morning why you should be putting your mixes out there for people to hear and give you feedback from people that you trust. No, not people that don't know anything about mixing necessarily. Although I think you can learn something from that too. I do. So without any further delay, I'm going to tell you 3 reasons. The first reason is because you create a feedback loop, and the feedback is what improves you. I said this the other day, and it was one of those things where it's like, wow, that I need to write that down because I told somebody on a podcast the other day that I don't think you learn anything from a mix that you're currently doing. I think you can only learn from a mix when it's done and you can look back on it, because when you're inside it, it's like, when we're in this coronavirus thing, we don't know the lessons that we're learning right now. We don't realize what we're going to take away from this and the things how this will shape us. Same thing with a mix. When you're doing a mix, you don't realize if what you're doing currently is actually working or not. You don't know that until you're out of it, until you're behind it. And what submitting a mix does is it creates that feedback loop, and it creates that I'm done with it, at least for now. I'm done with it right now. What did I learn from doing this? What will I do next time? What will I never do again? What will I always repeat from now on? You don't know any of that stuff until you turn in the loop. So that's a good reason to let someone else hear your mix. The second thing is that you listen to a mix differently when someone else is listening to it. I've been mixing for 35 years, and although I feel like with my experience and my many, many times of mixing and submitting a mix, I kind of know what it's going to sound like and what people's perception of it will be. When my wife hears it, and she really knows nothing about the technicalities of mixing, when she sits down and listens to one of my mixes, I hear it through her ears. And sometimes you don't hear a mix um, truly until you hear it through someone else's ears. When I sit down with her, I know she wants to hear the lyrics. She wants to hear the words. She wants to understand what they say. She wants to hear the bass because I'm a bass player. Not that I always play bass on it, but she wants to hear the bass guitar because she has an affinity for it like I do. So I always listen to a mix, and sometimes I'll miss that stuff unless I'm listening to it through her ears. Um, so turning in your mix, finishing up a mix, or at least getting it to the place where someone can listen to it is an important part of becoming better as a mix. So it's like if you're mixing a song and you mix on that song for 10 days, um, you're delaying the feedback loop on it because you're sitting there in your mind. It's like sometimes when I'll get inside my head and I'll start to think things, but I won't really understand what I'm thinking until I verbalize it, which is another reason that I'm loving doing this right now. So sometimes when someone's listening to your mix, you don't understand um, all there is to know about that mix until you verbalize it, until you let someone else hear it. So that's another good reason. It's like a songwriter that writes one song and they spend their whole life trying to promote that one song they wrote. They're still in that mix. They're still in that song, and they're not going to learn anything from having written that song unless they're finished writing it. Until you say, you know what, good or bad, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. I'm done with this song, and I'm going to move on. Then you can look back on that song 10 years later and go, yeah, I've written another 100 songs since then, and I can see why nobody really liked that one song. So if you're a songwriter and you've written one song, finish it up and move to the next song. Write the next song. Mix. If you've been working on a mix for 10 days, 10 years, finish it. Put it away. You're done with the mix. Even if you do another mix, it'd be better for you than trying to perfect that one mix. So the third reason is that you should be submitting your songs for people to listen to, whether it be your friends, whether it be your advisors, whether it be your wife, and listen to it like it is a finished song. Is because that's what professionals do. Professionals are in the routine of it's just a matter of putting the stake in the ground and saying, I'm done with this mix. Either a professional would say, I don't have any time to mix it anymore, or I'm not going to make any money on it. Or more likely is like the deadline is looming very near and I don't have any more time to mix it, so I have to be finished with it. And that forces you to at least finish the first version of it. Now, then usually the artist will listen to it, or the record company, or the producer, and they will tell you their input, but most likely it's pretty close with them anyway. You're just kind of stuck in your own head with the conversation. So turning in a mix and getting feedback on a mix is something that pros do all the time. They just found a way to get paid for it, right? But in that deadline of like, hey, can you have this done by Friday at noon? There's nothing that inspires quite like a deadline, and you will be pretty close to finish then. And then you get feedback from your other friends, or your producer, your artist, your client, whatever you want to call it. That's how you get mixed feedback. So that's what pros do. They turn in their mixes consistently. That's kind of like part of the game for them. And that's how they usually get better. Over time, they have finished mix after mix after mix, and they've learned from every mix, hopefully, and they've applied, even if it's something so small, they usually apply what they learned from the mix to the next mix. So the pros do it. So create a feedback loop by submitting your mixes or turning in your mixes to someone and taking a listen to it. The second thing is you listen to it differently. And the last thing is it's what the pros do. It's how the pros seem to keep getting better, is because they go through that feedback loop constantly, once a day, once a week, once a month, whatever their cycle is. That's how they do it. So I'll take a couple of questions. We're probably going to keep this pretty short today because I'm going to talk to some friends on Zoom today that I haven't talked with in a while. I've got to go to the studio a little bit today. I've got a friend bringing me a song that you may hear a little bit of later. And then I'm going to hopefully spend some time with my family today. But let me take one more question here. One question. How do you, I just realized that we'll be live soon is on my screen. Let me turn it off. Okay, so back to the comments. How do you locate other mixers that you can share your mixes with? Does it cost money? That's a great question, Mark. So the way I would do it is I used to I used to allow members to do this all the time, where we would once a month turn in mixes and listen to them, and I felt like it was the most valuable part of a Mix Coach member. When Mix Coach member was really hopping, and we had this cycle of creating mixes and tutorials and mixed feedback. I felt like the mixed feedback was probably the most valuable part. And I even had somebody, even as late as yesterday, tell me that they learned more about mixing from Mix Coach than they have pretty much anyone else. And I think that the reason for that was constant mixed feedback. I mean, it solidifies the 3 points I told you. The feedback loop, they had to create a mix every month and turn it in. If that's the only mix they were doing, they were at least doing it once a month. They were listening through my ears or John's ears or Dan's ears, anybody, and even some of the experience that was on Mixed Coach Member. They were listening through their ears, and they were getting feedback, and they were, kind of having a thick skin and a soft heart, right? For getting mixed back input from their mix. And, so I think that's the way to do it. So I would think, Mark, I would think about a community of mixers and being able to run mixes by those guys, just say, hey, would you take a quick listen to this? Just but the thing I found is that, it doesn't take a lot of time, to do a mix feedback, because usually you want that surfacey stuff. If somebody really likes your mix, they'll have to listen to it for a lot longer. If there's something that's glaringly wrong with the mix, like I did a class for Casper College this past week, and they turned in some mixes, and there were some things on there that were, obvious that, a brand new mixer would want to correct, like, this is too loud or this is too soft. So it doesn't take a whole lot of time. I would say on some forums, but I would be really careful about the forums, Mark, because places like, there are some forums that are known for just being real brutal. And it seems like the guys on there that have comments a lot don't have much else to do in the world except for be very, very critical and mean to other mixers. So I think, Mark, if you're intentional about mixing it or turning in your mix and getting feedback from it, you'll discover it. So I'll be thinking about that and thinking of where there would be some places. I know that some membership sites offer that sort of thing, although I can tell you from experience, it's a lot of work to listen to. We've listened to as many as 70 or 80 mixes in a month. And that may be one of the reasons that it's not happening currently, but I'm thinking about doing it again. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, some forums, find some friends that you trust who mix well. If you find somebody that mixes well, you run a mix by them every now and then. I wouldn't wear them out on it, but just run it by them. So anyway, good question, Mark. You always ask great questions, and I appreciate it. Okay, so this is going to be a short version today of the Mixed Coach Live, and hopefully you got a little insight there of why you should be turning in your mixes to someone to listen to, finding a community of people you trust and people that, the Bible says iron sharpens iron. So find yourself some iron that you can run your mixes by and see if you can't improve. If you want to improve your mixes, I have a resource for you. It's at mixcoach.com. Go and check it out. And there's 3 things on there that I think will help you. I'm going to help you to figure out, with the same monitors and the same plugins that you already have, how to improve your mixes. And you do that by referencing a mix. And I'll tell you how my beliefs in that and how you triangulate a mix with different monitors, cars, headphones, and a lot of other stuff. So check it out on mixcoach.com. But until tomorrow, it's been good hanging out with you guys, even so briefly this morning. And I hope I'll see you Monday. Now, next week, I'm going to have Lidge Shaw on at some point. Not sure which day exactly, but Lidge is the owner and runner and podcaster from Recording Studio Rockstars. I've been on the show before, and Lidge is about to do some really cool stuff with Craig Alvin, a mixer there in Nashville, and we're going to talk about it a little bit next week. So hopefully you'll come back. I'll put some links up on the Mixed Coach and Facebook, the YouTube page and the Facebook page very soon. So be on the lookout for that. And until I see you again, I hope you have a great weekend, and I will be talking to you next week. Okay.